Imagine hearing about a life-threatening disease and you want to protect yourself and others from it. Where do you get your information from? How do you know who to trust? A recent outbreak of measles in Washington has many wondering what to do to protect themselves. Many sources are giving their input on how to protect themselves. People typically follow the news station that follows their own personal beliefs without even realizing it. I've been conducting research on this topic for a few weeks, and I've realized that many ways a story is being told. Conducting this research has made me become quite familiar with the topic. So I will be giving a brief overview of the story, explaining how each story varies, and then explaining which is the most credible. A little background information on the story. With an outbreak of measles in the northwest corner of the United States, Washington has declared a state of emergency. Since the first of the year, 36 cases of measles have been contracted, most of them children under the age of 10. It is believed that this is caused from the anti-vaccine movement. The anti-vaccine movement is spreading across the U.S. all because one doctor, whose research has been disproved numerous times, said that vaccines cause autism. Officials are stressing the need to vaccinate in order to help control this outbreak. According to MSN News, it is determined that a rate of 90 to 95% of a community must be vaccinated in order to be safe for others. Now it is thought that it will take somewhere between weeks and months to get this outbreak back under control. This news story has reached across the entire U.S. and there's many differing stories on the matter. 4 articles by The Washington Post, CBS, MSN, and USA Today all took different approaches, and there seems to be a little bias. In the USA Today article, it was very straight to the point. They stated exactly what was happening and answered all the common questions people have. On the other side, CBS, MSN, and Washington Post were all urging the need to vaccinate kids. Vaccination were the key points of these 3 articles, where USA Today just stated the research behind why a vaccine was effective. USA Today was very here are the facts, while CBS, MSN, and Washington Post all tried to make a story out of it and convince people to get vaccines. They were trying to have a very persuasive argument. They all had a part of their article trying to instill fear, whether it was through quotes or facts. CBS, MSN were full of references and quotes from credible people that made their article more appealing for the reader to believe. There were a few discrepancies in the data when it came to patients' ages and the amount of unvaccinated. With all these varying stories, how do we know which is the most credible? Being a reader of these articles, you really must decide what you want to know. If you want to know about the measles outbreak and just things about it, USA Today is the most reliable article to go to. If you want to know about the anti-vaccine movement and how this is just another example of how it's affecting the United States, the other 3 articles are better to follow. When reading through the articles, it seemed that the main point for CBS, MSN, and Washington Post was to tell everyone to get vaccinated, while USA Today was the only article trying to give the facts and educate the reader on the measles. CBS, MSN, and Washington Post only briefly mentioned the outbreak, and the anti-vaccine movement became the main point of the article. This shows a little bit of bias in these articles because they barely educate the reader on what's happening. In the article written in 2019 by CBS, for example, they only talk about the article and what's happening in Washington for the first paragraph. The other 17 paragraphs are all about the anti-vaccine movement. In the CBS News article, New York is said to be on low on vaccinations because of a huge outbreak of measles of 200 cases. However, according to the New York Department of Health in 2017, they were well within herd immunity immunizations, with 91% of people being immunized. Due to the anti-vaccine movement becoming extremely controversial, it is a main cause of bias for these articles. For example, Ashley May of USA Today only mentions vaccines once as a preventative medicine for the measles, saying, "The measles 2-dose vaccine is 97% effective for the virus, according to the CDC." After reading through all 4 articles, USA Today does the most efficient job when explaining what happened with the measles outbreak and covering information to educate a concerned reader. To summarize, after stating a brief summary of the measles outbreak in Washington, I was able to use different sources to fact-check and find out what was true and what wasn't, as well as which is the most credible. Every story has multiple viewpoints. It is our job to determine which is the most credible to follow. Hopefully, after this presentation, you will be able to fact-check your own news stories and form opinions about what is currently going on in the world and be properly educated on the subject.